this is okay. And we're gonna close some windows here. Actually, I need some windows open because I need to give you some resources. We got YouTube and we got ArtStation. So right off the bat, we're gonna kind of what we did last time with the substance body horror stuff. So let me see. We're not loading a Z tool here. I'm going to go to File, Open. I've already got a body ready to go, and I pulled this over from Reallusion base bodies. So we're just going to use this, and then eventually we can animate this. If you want to know how to do that, you can go to my YouTube channel and at the Home tab here, and you just scroll down. You got the Reallusion Character Creator section, and there's all sorts of cool stuff in there that you can use to animate your stuff. I'll put this YouTube link in here in the chat. Also, right above that is ZBrush What's New, and I want to bring your attention to, well, this one, 2025 What's New stuff is all in that playlist, but also this Intro to ZBrush playlist here. There we go. So if you're new to ZBrush and you got questions, if you scroll down, you're going to see a whole like 50 videos in here, get you caught up in ZBrush stuff. And you know what? You already got the YouTube link. And then also just in here, ZBrush What's New, Character Creator stuff, all in here in my ArtStation page too. So you can go through those tabs, check those out. Because I don't think we're going to be able to cover every little thing, but at least we can cover clothing, costume creation. So what we're going to be making specifically, let me move this around here, is, oh, it's always on the bottom. Let me hide this real quick. This type of thing, and I guess another close-up would be like this. It's kind of a Hellraiser Vatican Met Gala. It's right up my alley. So something like this that we're going to create on this base body, and then eventually for the purposes of animating it. So let's get started here. Is my, okay, everything seems to be working. So we need volumes. Oh, it didn't load my preferences, config. I'm going to load my UI here. I'm going to go to ZBrush data. So C users public document ZBrush data 2025. Oops. Z startup, custom user interface. There it is. There's my Pav custom menu. If you, hey, if you want to know more about how to make that, back here, right here in that, oh, this is still going. Right back here in this intro to ZBrush playlist, if we do a search, let me put this back here. All right, that's not going to work. Let's go over here to playlists, and then in here, view full playlist. There we go. I'm going to do a search for custom. Control F is search. There's custom brushes, which is also totally cool. But down here, and we'll actually make a custom brush for this, where all these little nails are in her outfit there. We'll probably make a custom brush for that. But down here, video 42, custom interface and menus. So that's basically what we're doing here. I'm also starting a little bit early because I have to leave a little bit early. I got to take my dog to the vet for her teeth to get extracted. Had a little broken tooth thing. Okay, so we got the base body here, and again, we're gonna be kind of drape. You know, let's do this. I'm gonna switch this mode to not always be on the bottom. Can I do that? Yeah, so that way when I click on it, man, it just always wants to be in the bottom. Anyway, this right here. So basically, we have a volume of a dress that kind of drapes down to about halfway down the bicep, about 2/3 down the bicep, I suppose. Kind of splits open, and then it's kind of split along the back. It's kind of split right along the middle on the front, not necessarily the back. And in order to create that, it's kind of, I'm going to say it's going to be kind of like creating a cape. We may need to create a volume first, especially for these things, or we can maybe just pull this up, and we'll also probably use cloth dynamics. I really don't know what we're going to do, but we're just going to figure it out. Oh, thank you. Hello. Thank you. Whew, sorry, I'm a little bit sleepy today, but good. I'm glad the videos are helping, and hopefully this will be another good one. We'll see how it goes. I'm semi-confident we can do this. Even if I can't, you know, we'll have fun playing around with ZBrush. So, you know what, just for context, I'm going to go ahead and import one of these images and just have it kind of sitting up in my screen. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to go to, where are we at? Recording, Gaga. Oh, this is the Abracadabra Lady Gaga music video cloth thing. So what's a good one? What's a good one we can just have sitting there? I think this one. I'm going to have this one, like this one here. So I'm going to say texture. Let's do this. Let's go in here. Let's grab a plane primitive. Just drag it on our canvas. We're already in edit mode, so you don't have to hit T, but it's right there. We're going to scoot around here. We're going to say make polymesh 3D. Oop, around to the back here. So we've already loaded the texture. We went to texture, import, and we grabbed it and it's sitting right there, right? So we're going to go down here with this loaded underneath the tool menu. We're going to go to texture map. We're going to grab that texture here. And you're going to see, she looks a little squashed. So we're going to go in here to, oh, where is that? It's been actually a while since I've done some ZBrush stuff. That is a polypaint thing. There it is. Hold down shift, polypaint from texture. That'll change the aspect ratio. But now it's fuzzy, right? Well, just turn your texture back on. We are defuzzied. And it's also a little dark. That's because we have a matte cap material on there. We can just put a flat color on there. So now, there we go. So now we can just stick this right up here, and we're going to go out of edit mode, and that's going to, we'll say always switch. That's going to drop it right on the canvas, and then we're just going to head right back over to our body, our Reallusion body here, drag that out, go into edit mode. I'm going to hit F on my keyboard to frame. It's going to be a little hard to sculpt on, so we're going to switch this material back to that. You know, this is my startup material, is this green metallic, but, you know, feel free to use whatever you'd like, and we'll get cracking. So, starting with that dress here, let's play around. I mean, we don't have to start with the dress. We could do the hat or that little cloth covering or the gloves. So many cool things we could do, but I guess we'll start with the dress because that's going to be the most difficult. So let's go ahead and turn off perspective here. You can just tap P on your keyboard, and we're just going to drape something right along here. And I suppose we could try just doing like a plane. My usually when I'm doing cloth, what I tend to do is just go in here, like, especially if you're going to be doing something that's like a form-fitting dress or a t-shirt or something, and you want to use the body and conform it. And actually, you know what? Now that I'm looking at this, this is a very, we'll see. So usually what I'll do is I'll take the base body and I'll duplicate it off. I'm going to hold down shift. I'm going to do this bent down arrow to shoot it to the very bottom. So we got all this body stuff in here, and I just want to know this asset down here is where I'm working. I'm going to hold down shift, turn off this eyeball. That's going to turn the eyeball off for everything. And now I just have a duplicate of the body. I tapped X to turn on X symmetry, which is transform, activate symmetry. And sometimes it's easier if you're doing a dress or something, to literally just go in here and start creating the volume for your dress. So it's like, okay, it's going to fit, you know, her legs and her arms, and it's going to drape straight down. So you can literally just go in here with a mask. Let's hold down control, go in here to mask lasso, and we're going to mask the inside here. And it's not going to look pretty or anything, but that's okay, because this is literally just to create volumes on. Let me be a little more careful with that. There we go. So control tap to invert that, and then you can just pull these volumes in towards the middle, and we could even just dynamesh this, you know, so this will kind of be the start of where I could mask and create a cloth thing. Let's go ahead and do dynamesh. So I have a custom menu here with dynamesh turned on. So my custom menu is here that I've made, and then I do a hotkey to pull that up where my mouse is. For y'all ZBrush users, geometry, dynamesh, there it is. And I think resolution, let's drag this all the way down. I'm working at an interesting scale. Let's see, dynamesh resolution of 8 is actually pretty high at the scale I'm working at. I do have a Z plugin that you can also download. Hello, Gazi. How's it going? Z plugin, we have a dynamesh utility. If you want to grab that, you can go in here to, if I can type, ZBrush plugins. First one probably. If you scroll down, you can download any of these. If you want to install them, again, just that intro to ZBrush. Nope, I guess not. I don't have it in my intro to ZBrush, but I'm certain I have it on my channel somewhere. So let's go to my YouTube channel, type in plugins. Let's see, installing ZBrush plugins right there. And one more time, if you need those resources, here's the channel. You can go and do your little searchy stuff. But once you've installed that, you have a Dynamesh utility. So as you can see, this went pretty high res. It's like 1 million. I don't need that many, but I'm working at a weird scale. So if I want to go lower than that, you know, I could do 0.1, and I'm going to go down here to additional options. I'm going to turn on the use auto scaler. And now if I Dynamesh this, it'll go ahead and re-Dynamesh at a lower resolution. And the opposite, if you want to go super high or control exactly how many polygons you want your Dynamesh to be, use the Dynamesh utility plugin. Okay, so we'll turn that off. We'll hold down Shift to smooth, and I want to say down here under my smooth brush modifiers, if I set this up right, my weighted smooth mode should be set to 1, and it's not. I'm going to hold down Shift to select my smooth brush. I'm going to change my weighted smooth mode to 1. That's smooth stronger. And just for the heck of it, so we can talk about it, I'm going to hold down Shift with Shift held down because I want to save my smooth brush. Brush, save as. We're going to go in here to C, Program Files, Max on ZBrush 2025, Z Data. And in here is Brush Presets. Now before I do this, I'm going to select Brush Presets, Control C, Control V. That's going to make me a copy of that entire folder. This is what brushes show up in ZBrush when you first start, like in your whole brush palette. So if I mess those up, I have to reinstall ZBrush. But if I have this little copy out here, I can always go back. I'm going to go into the Brush Presets menu now, and we're going to save over our Elemental PQRS Smooth Brush. So now every time I start up ZBrush, that smooth brush will have Smooth Stronger enabled. Now don't confuse that with, if I also go in here, I also have like Orbs Cracks and Geo Soft Brush and Trim Smooth Border and some Z Modeler slice brushes and stuff like that loaded up. Just so you know, just so we can talk about it. Same place. Not Z Data. So Z Data is where all that big palette of brushes is. If you go in here to Z Startup, I think, is that right? ZBrush 2025. Z brushes. No, it's not Z brushes. That's your Lightbox brush menu. Oh, I scroll down. Z Startup. I was like, I know it's Z Startup. In here is a brush presets folder. If you throw brushes in here, that won't change your, you know, if you have a move brush that you want to put in here that's different, like Move Acu I have in here or whatever, that will just add more brushes to your brush palette when you start up. So then you can have those on startup and assign hotkeys to them. Hello, Lialgo. I'm doing good. I feel like my voice is already about to go. That's scary. Just started. So we've gone through here and we have a volume. So if you're going to do some clothing types, this is beneficial to you. I don't know that it's going to be super beneficial to us necessarily for what we're making. But you know what, we'll give it a shot. So right in between, like I said, about oops. I'm actually going to turn off Dynamesh. Well, I'll turn that back on in a second. So right around here as well, we're just going to mask, and then I'm going to say, you know what, let's hold down Alt and put our gizmo here, and we'll maybe kind of center it. I'm just trying to bridge this gap. Now, while I'm scaling, you're going to see it's going towards and away from the world axis center. Go over here and turn on LSim and then turn off Dynamic. Dynamic turned on is going to put your symmetry right. Your gizmo is going to control the symmetry. I don't want that, but I do want local symmetry, so it's right along the local symmetry of where my cursor is on both sides, if that makes sense. Sorry that it probably didn't make a ton of sense, but you'll get it. Just turn on local symmetry. If of course you want to know more about that, on my YouTube channel, we go a little bit more into detail. So just look up symmetry. Okay, so we'll Dynamesh again at that lower resolution. So now And so I think when I control drag Dynamesh, it doesn't run the utility. So I have to go over here to Dynamesh and have it, run it at that lower res. Okay. So now here again, we're basically just giving myself a shelf to kind of set that cloth on that we're creating. And it won't be draped necessarily. We'll have to kind of build that in, but at least that'll give us a nice start to our cloth. So now let's go through here and let's start making our cloth. And as you can see, it kind of goes up around the neck, and then I'm assuming straight back. Oh, I actually don't have to assume. I got it right here. So split down the middle. It looks, I think, all the way down. Does it open in the... God, it might stop there. I'm going to split it down the middle all the way down. That'll be easier for animation later, I think. But I'm going to split... it does look like it stops there. I guess we can... You know what? I'm going to split this all the way down the middle on the front, and then on the sides here, it looks like it's split all the way down, and then along the back here, and then it kind of goes up around the neck. So that's what we're making. So we've already got the volume here. So let's go through here, and first we'll kind of do a big pass here. So we're going to go right across the neck, and then again about here, and then it does get split down the sides, which I think we can grab, and then this will just go straight down, like it's pretty low. So right here we'll stop it with the ankle, and there we go. So that's kind of the initial volume, and then we're going to hold down Control, switch back to mask pin. Oops, lost my chat here. There it is. Are the plugins compatible with the iPad version? I highly doubt it. I don't know that there's a way. Oh, that's another thing. I need to upload my iPad videos. When I was making my iPad videos, at the time I was recording those, there weren't, I didn't see a way to do plugins for the iPad. I'm sure they're coming. They're doing a lot of development around that. They've been pushing hard, new features and stuff. So give it time, developing for the iPad and making ZBrush desktop application work on a tablet that your stepmom takes to the grocery store. That's not an easy feat, right? So give them some time. But yeah, I think eventually there will be. I mean, I don't know if there'll be in plugin form. I couldn't tell you that, but. I don't know their secrets. I'm not a ZBrush developer. I'm just a enthusiastic young man about ZBrush. So we're going to go through here. I'm trying to debate if we're going to be draping this cloth and I want this to be stapled together. I'm actually not going to split this just yet. I don't think. I don't know. We'll figure this out. So this is generally where I want my cloth to go. And just for the heck of it, I suppose we could also Control Tap and we can go through here. And we can start getting that volume. Now, here's the thing is when I go through here and start simulating, this is just going to drop right on the shoulder. So, I mean, we can mask it so it doesn't, but we'll see. So, yeah, all these splits I'm not going to do just yet. I'm just getting the base cloth. I think this will, I don't know. We'll see if this works. Okay, so I'm going to Control Tap to invert that mask. I'm going to turn on Polyframe. You see, you just get tons of weird polygroups on here. I'm just going to hit Control W to group where I was masked, and then Control Shift Tap that one group, and then we're going to say Geometry, Modify Topology, Delete Hidden. Geometry, Modify Topology, Delete Hidden. Now, if I was to Z-remesh this just to get a simpler mesh, it's going to pick up on all this aliasing. In fact, we can just do it. So I have X symmetry turned on. I can just, Geometry, Z-remesher. This is pretty low res, so I can say half, and depth size down to 0, nice even quads. In this case, I think will work. And then we can just hit that Z-remesher button. And when we do this, it's going to go from like 84,000 points to 41,000. And you're going to see it's going to build in that kind of aliasing. So what we're going to do, actually, first thing we're going to do is Geometry, Modify Topology, Mirror and Weld. That'll make sure our geometry is symmetrical on both sides. And then we're going to go down here to, if you really wanted to protect these volumes, you can go in here to masking and then just say mask, turn these other two off, mask by border, Control Tap to invert that, or just hit this invert button, and then go in here with a deformation, and then do like a polish by feature or a polish. I like polish by feature. That'll smooth those out. So now when we zero mesh, it's going to build in a nice smooth transition there on the feet too. Now, if you didn't really care, like you didn't have a ton of detail in here you wanted to protect for zero mesher, then you could just run a polish by feature and just smooth out, you know, the entire mesh. So just drag that. Yeah, so now when we zero mesh half, and the reason I'm zero meshing is I want, I mean, I could simulate 80,000 polygons. It'll still work. If we go in here to dynamics and drag that over here, our max simulation points are at 250,000. So it'll do it, but I like to have a little bit more control, and I want to, oh, speaking of, cloth stuff was like a huge, so if we go in here to my YouTube playlist here, cloth was a huge, this is a monster playlist. 2021 was a big year. So if you go in here into this what's new playlist and you look up cloth, do a Control F search, there is a ton of cloth. If you want to know everything and more about cloth, that's a good start. Won't say everything's in there, but we'll go ahead and put this in here. That's the 2021 playlist. So again, we'll just keep hitting zero mesh half. Just drop this down, drop this down. And also, you know, it's fitting close to the body. If we want to see how close, if we go back in here to our stack, I'm going to tap this. You know, we'll go ahead and rename this too. We'll call this cloth. Way up here at the top, we have the CC base body. We'll turn that back on. And now you can see we're kind of interpenetrating a little bit. Not a big deal. Just go in here with your move brush or grab your inflate brush. So B-I-N, or you can assign a hotkey. So if you want to assign a hotkey to something, just go in here to your brush palette, find out where it is, hold down Control-Alt. We'll do it for, I'm only seeing things like form soft, and then we'll do like Alt-J, I guess. And then you'll see up here, hotkey assigned successfully. Then you can just cycle through, you know, Alt-J will grab form soft brush. So now here we are with our inflate brush, Alt-I for me, nothing for you, but feel free to change that. So now we can go through here. Now, again, because we started with the base body, it is just kind of sticking to the body. We want to have a natural drape, and that's where cloth simulation will come in. But before we do that, I can go ahead and just start that process. So instead of it being like a, you know, one of those suits where it looks like she's flying down a mountain for a Red Bull or something, we can, and this will go through here. That'll be split. Yeah. Okay. I think I'm seeing a path forward. Sometimes just talking to myself, not talking to myself, talking to my audience here, my beautiful early morning, at least in where I am. You wonderful viewers, I'm talking to you. But just kind of work, you know, just kind of getting started. Don't get bogged down. There's always a brute force, even if you don't know exactly how you're going to approach something. Just start, and then if you didn't do it perfectly, it's fine. You can just kind of wittily work your way around it. So now, as far as the draping goes, and again, it, you know, it's kind of form fitting up top, right about to the bust line, and then it just kind of drops straight down. Again, I think our cloth simulation will do some of that heavy lifting, but let's go ahead and help it a little bit. So we're just going to go right down the front here. I suppose if we wanted to, we could also just say, you know what? Let's hop back into our mask lasso here. Let's try this. I'm going to grab this front half here. Control tap to invert that. Control tap will also blur, so we can invert and blur. And then W, Alt, drag, put this out front here, and then just scale all these verts towards the front, like so. And that'll kind of give you that straight drop off here. There's also, this also reminds me, well, I won't get too deep into it because I honestly don't remember how to do it very well, but there is a way to use Spotlight. If you go in here, so when we in here into texture, we grab this, actually we didn't use Spotlight. If we select the texture and then go into Spotlight, you can paint through or sculpt through a Spotlight image, or we can go into our comma key. We can go in here to Spotlight, and there is a clothing Spotlight. So if you double click this, now we've got Let me see. I'm gonna hit Z to bring up my widget. We can pull these over to the side so we can see them. You can use these in order to project a dress type geometry, and it'll go straight back, and it'll actually end up kind of looking like this. In fact, let's see. There we go. Yeah, Spotlight clothing. So if you want to check that out, I'm not going to do it here, but knock stuff out. You know what? Let me see. I'll turn my mic up a little bit and I'll shove it right in my mouth. It's probably just me not wanting to scream this morning, but see if this is a little bit better. And I'll try not to breathe into the mic. So here we're going to go through, and let me check OBS actually. It should be. Okay, yeah, we're maxed out on the mic. I will just try to talk a little bit louder. Let's see. I'll do a little more gain. Look at me sounding like a roadie for Metallica. I'm going to up the gain on my Shure mic here, my dynamic mic. Okay, so we got this. We're going to pull this here, and I guess along the back too we'll do a little bit. So I feel like, let me move this down. Yeah, I think probably the shoulder blades down, and I think the simulation will probably do this for me, but we'll go ahead and pull this out, and then the butt straight down. We'll go ahead and just take this. Now we are kind of wrenching this geometry around, but we're going to zero mesh again, and that'll even us out. I'll show you what that does. So let's Z-scale this back, and then we'll just soften that transition there. There we go. So we've got nice drape here. And I wonder if a T-pose might have been extreme. Yeah, this will be fine. So we have a cloth-like object sitting over our body about where we want it to go. And now we want to kind of simulate it onto the body before we start splitting this thing up. And remember, we've kind of made this geometry not great. In fact, we could even make it even less great. You know, if I want to make this straight across, let's hold down Control-Shift. We'll go in here to Slice Curve. We're just going to slice a straight line right along the bottom. Control-Shift, tap the orange, yellow polygroup, geometry modified topology, delete hidden. Okay, I think we're good to go. I think we're getting close. And I'm being very methodical about this. You could have just gone in here and Dynamesh and finished in about 10 minutes, but we're going step by step. Let me go ahead and turn that texture off. Okay, so let's go ahead and say zero mesh again, zero mesh half, depth size down to 0 for nice even quads. And go ahead and hit zero mesh. Maybe zero mesh again. That's a little low. Another thing you can do, you're going to see there's a midline geometry here. Actually, we'll be zero meshing this again after we slice too. So again, it's super easy in ZBrush to make changes that you want. If you want, you can also hold down Alt and hit zero mesh, and that will give you a different midline algorithm. Sometimes it gives you a better result, and in this case, it did. So here's our cloth here, and we have a body, right? The cloth is selected, the base body is showing. So underneath dynamics, we're going to say turn on collision volume. I'm going to go ahead and crank that resolution up all the way. And then inflate, I'm going to turn down a bit. So now if I just run the simulation, the only thing that's on right now is the collision volume, the floor. If you turn on your floor plane here, it'll collide with that little floor. And we can actually turn that off. We don't need to collide with the floor. And then we have gravity turned on. Gravity strength is up quite a bit. And on something this low res, if you just turn it on, at this size, it seems to be doing fine. Sometimes it'll be like, whew, it'll fall right off your object. If that's the case, just turn this gravity strength down. In our case, at the scale, seems to be working fine. So now running that just kind of, it draped on the object and kind of stuck to her. And I think that's a good enough start for now. So now if we want to start dividing this up, and again, this thing is split from the neck all the way down the sides and then across the chest here. There's a couple different ways we could do this. One way is literally just kind of like what we did before. You can go through here and you can just start splitting this thing up and then zero meshing. So if we split down the side, then we hold down Control Shift. And in fact, if we want more resolution just in case, we can just hit Control D. And this is helpful too when you're talking about simulation, because now we can simulate at subdivision level 1, or if you want more wrinkly simulations with more geometry, just go up to subdivision level 2, run a simulation, or use your cloth brushes or whatever, and now you have the power and control to have multiple subdivisions to do that at to get a different result, or kind of refine your results. If there's areas you don't want to simulate, like those shoulders we were talking about, just mask them. And then I like to do a little blur. So now, if we did want to keep these things up and you wanted to simulate, just mask and it'll go through and simulate. Now, we'll probably end up turning that collision volume off pretty soon. This is just to get kind of a drape. Now here's the thing. So I went to subdivision level 2. I'm going to say delete lower. So now we have more geometry. So now this is where you could go if you wanted. I don't know that we might have to do this. Yeah. So if we wanted to go, hey, I'm going to split this cloth right down the side here. There we go. So now we've got a front and a back. And again, we want to split it down the middle, right? This I'm just going to go in with geometry and do, but I'm going to across this front here, and you know what? I need this as a reference. So I'm going to pull this down. So across the front here. Now, if I just go through here and start slicing, it's going to slice all the way through my object. I don't want that. So I'm going to hold down Control Shift Tap just so that the green one is showing, and then we can hold down Control Shift. Let's do a slice circle. There we go. And we'll do a very broad, wide circle, and it looks like it goes, actually goes down her armpit, I think. Kind of goes straight across. This is interesting. Well, let's switch back to slice curve. We're just going to kind of follow this line here. Something important to note, this is never going to be symmetrical. No matter what you do with your slicing, it's just going to slice where your line is. This is where geometry, modified topology, mirror, and weld across the X comes in. But we got to bring everything back. So Control Shift Tap, geometry, modified topology, mirror, and weld, and that will put you back on symmetry mode. There we go. So now, we got this slice down the side, we got the slice down the front, and then like I said, for this middle section here, here's a trick. We're going to hold down Control Shift, we're going to switch over to select lasso, and if we hold down Control Shift and tap on that edge ring, that will go ahead and select it. And then we can do geometry, modified topology, delete hidden. Alternatively, or if you wanted to just go through here with your Z modeler brush, BZM, right over the middle here, and we can say like bevel, edge loop complete. You can just put a little bevel in here, and that will go all the way straight down, and then we can Control Shift Tap. If you try to Control Shift Tap a select rectangle, you can, but then you got to go through here and like kind of do some fancy footwork with your polygroups here. But again, we can just use select lasso, boom, right down the middle on that edge ring, and then geometry, modified topology, delete hidden. So now we're split down the middle, we're split down the sides, and if we want new geometry, because obviously this isn't going to be, oh, you know what? It is split along the back too. Let's do that. Yeah, that's fine. I kind of want a reference for where that is though. Yeah, dang it. Here's what we're gonna do. Give me a second. I'm just gonna. We've already talked about when I sliced through here. I assumed that I didn't want to slice to the back, but now looking at the reference, I do. So one more time, real quick. Just slice curve right along here, so it gets the front and the back. And then one more time, we're just gonna put a bevel right down the middle, and then Control Shift with our select lasso. And we're where we started. So delete hidden, geometry, modified topology, mirror, and weld across the x-axis, and there we go. So now we got this all divided up, and now if we want a little bit of a nicer geometry, when we go in here to zero mesh, just turn on keep groups. We don't need to smooth the groups, they're already pretty smooth, although sometimes when we slice, there will be like a little triangle or something that kind of throws it off, but I think we're in good shape. So we're going to say keep groups, smooth groups down to 0, since our slice should be pretty smooth, and then we'll just hit zero mesh. If this is too low, then feel free to turn off half. Or if you don't love this geometry, and you can see we're kind of having an issue here. Again, let's turn off half, and we'll do same. We'll use the same resolution. If that's still too low, we could try double. And you're also going to see it does seem to be having a lot of issues right here. Sometimes there will be like a little tiny thing going on. Let's go in here to geometry, modify topology. There is a weld points and a weld distance. Because we're working so large, sometimes you can just hit weld points and it'll work for the scale you're working at. I have a feeling that we're going to need to really crank that weld distance up. Maybe not that much. Just to kind of weld any like little weird points when I go in here and zero mesh. Oh, and sometimes it'll it sewed up our middle, and this can sometimes be problematic. Let's see. Well, maybe I won't use weld points. Let's see if I can get this to work out. So zero mesher, keep groups, smooth groups down to 0, and we can always go through here. You can hold down shift and you can smooth, and you can see like this it's having a problem with. We can also try splitting. So if we go through here and we hold down, so for example, let's just duplicate this off because I'm not sure I'm gonna stick with this. I'm gonna duplicate this off, turn off cloth. So Control Shift tap this piece right here. We'll say geometry modify topology delete hidden, and we'll just zero mesh this by itself, and then there you go. So now this might be a little bit of a better technique. I'm gonna try to. I do want to try and fix our. I mean, it's not difficult to do that, but I want to try this. Whenever I bring in a real illusion base body, you can see like my brush size is capped. There's ways around that, but it does kind of make some of the default values in ZBrush kind of difficult to work with, so it's not super fun sometimes. But let me see here. I'm also going to hold down Shift, turn down my Z intensity. Here's another thing we could try, since I don't want to weld my front down. You can go in here to masking, where we were earlier, and we could say mask our polygroup border. So we can mask our polygroup border, Control tap to invert that, and then we can just run, again, that polish by feature, just kind of smooth that border out. You can also hold down Shift, and underneath your brush smooth brush modifiers, if you hover over here, you can turn on 6, which is groups border. So if you switch this to 6, you can go through here and manually smooth that group's border. Again, you could also, when we're zero, so many things you could try. When we're zero meshing, you could, instead of having smooth groups down to 0, you could turn this up and it will actually go through and smooth it for you. So we'll see if that helped any. And the reason why it is kind of having a problem, I think, is because when you're trying to do even quads and then also try to keep these really sharp corners, sometimes that can be kind of tough. But we can also go through here and we can just say collapse with our Z model brush, BZM. We can just start collapsing and kind of helping out, like, okay, hey, polygroup, I want you. I'm not looking at the geometry. That I don't care about. I'm just looking at this polygroup line and just being like, hey, you're having a hard time. Let me help you out. Let me go through here and collapse this for you, straighten that line out. Oh, we got a little thing on the side where maybe a little triangle was and you tried to build it in. Little buddy, we'll help it out. We're here to help. So we're just going to go through here and we'll use our move brush. So now we have plenty of geometry. We don't need to, we can keep zero meshing half if we want to. But now we've helped out zero mesher a little bit with his robot brain. So we'll say half, zero mesh half. There we go. So now we're getting a better result. This is a little bit of a problematic thing. But again, because we're going to be splitting this off anyways, like, again, you could just split these off and then zero mesh them independently and you're good to go. But for anybody who needed these edge loops to line up while you're zero meshing, there's a couple problem solving techniques that might help. And also remember holding down Alt and zero meshing for that alternate midline here. You could give that a shot. And while you're in here too, you can also just go in here with Z Modeler and then just start, moving stuff around. collapsing edges and changing your edge flow and stuff. Again, this isn't fantastic, but we'll make do. Now, back to this draw size thing. You can see it's capping out early. You could just go in here and just turn off dynamic. And in fact, if you wanted to remember per brush, just turn that on. And then it's not great if you want to do IMM stuff, but you can just turn off dynamic for brushes here. So let's turn off dynamic for our standard brush. Alternatively, you can go in here to Preferences, Draw, and you could crank up your dynamic brush scale. So like put it up to 2 or 3 or 5. That's a multiplier, or just crank up your max brush size, and that'll allow you to get that big brush. Yeah, this dress is totally doable in Marvelous. And in fact, if you want to, we could even pop this into Marvelous right now and use our geometry as a pattern. If we UV it, and if you want more information on that, check out this video. Convert geometry and UVs to Marvelous Designer clothing patterns. So this is basically doing exactly what we did, where we go through and we just do what we want, and then we make UVs in ZBrush, and then we toss that over into Marvelous Designer and say, hey, make a pattern based on our UVs. So that way you don't have to go through and make patterns. You can go through and you can clean up patterns and then simulate in Marvelous. So that's a fun one. I'll put that right here. Let's see here. Yeah, that's a good point. So underneath geometry, there is a mesh integrity. You can check mesh and fix mesh. And sometimes if any floating points are non-manifold geometry, sometimes that'll split edges, and especially if you're erroring out. Another thing I've noticed, if you want to get rid of errors, Control-Shift-Drag over a little piece of your mesh, do Control-Shift-A, which is Visibility Grow All, and then Geometry Modify Topology Delete Hidden. That'll also delete any floating polygons that ZRemesher might error out on. Cool. ZBrush. Do you think ZBrush will be combined with another program? I don't know. It's been standalone for a while. I don't know that you want to stick it into another program, but maybe. What's the easiest way to set scene scale for multiple subtools in ZBrush using Scale Master plugin? I think so. I think that's, for everyone else, Z plugin Scale Master. And if you want to know how to use it, I think if you just click this button up here and click that link, we'll say Google Chrome. There we go. That'll pop open a video. And there's also that little instructional thing that was in there too. But Scale Master. This is a way to kind of go through. And there's kind of, when you're doing 3D printing, that Scale Master in conjunction with 3D Print Hub, you can do some scaling up size ratios, scaling operations in there. So between those two, yeah, that should get you going. Yeah, I don't know how much of a Vertex master I'm being today, but yeah, we're giving it a shot. So we've got our cloth dress here. So now let's talk about, real quickly, since we've already done kind of a slow version of this, we'll do a fast version of that cloth that's around the head. So we're going to do, we're going to duplicate off this entire body, hold down Shift, bent down arrow, turn everything else off by holding down Shift and visibility. And we'll go ahead and hit, instead of Dynameshing, we'll just hit Control D to get some more resolution. And we're going to hold down Control, Mask Lasso, and right around kind of the front of the face here. Looks like it goes about here. And then somewhere in here will be that cloth area, right? And we can go ahead and just say, right about there. So I'm going to say Control W, make that all one polygroup, Control Shift Tap here. Geometry Modify Topology, Delete Hidden. Also, let's hold down Shift. Oh, we got some extra stuff in there. Control Shift Drag over a little piece. Control Shift. Let me do that again. Geometry Modify Topology, Delete Hidden. And we got to pay attention to error messages. Say Delete Lower to get rid of our subdivision history, and then Delete Hidden. Control Shift Drag over a little piece. Control Shift A, and then Geometry Modify Topology, Delete Hidden. That way, since that mouth bag wasn't vert welded, it's right in there. We don't need to build in this whole ear detail here. One easy way to get rid of that, besides just, let's turn off dynamic for smooth, besides just smoothing, is to hold down Shift and then go in here to Sculptris Pro, and that'll kind of chew away geometry. So that's an easy way to kind of just turn that into a lump. And then again, we can zero mesh this, but before we do that, we'll do a quick let's do it where you can know where it is. Deformation, and then let's do just tap polish by features a couple times, and then zero mesh half, depth size down to 0, and boom, there we go. So all that stuff that we took forever to do, you can see how quickly you can work if you're just doing it and not explaining it. And then this can kind of be a cloth thing too. So we can kind of go through here and we can start sculpting, but we can also use cloth brushes for this. Now let's start talking about thickness and where we want, when and where we want to add thickness. So at this point here, if I turn on the body and we turn on the body, again, you can also do a deformation inflate. So in your deformation menu, you can just inflate along all of those, or again, we can just manually go through here and inflate with an inflate brush. And then we'll use our move brush here. So now I think this is a fine resolution. You can keep zero meshing half if you'd like. You can also go into your move brush and hold down Alt, and that will move along a surface normal. There we go. So here's this, and actually we're gonna kind of compress. We're not moving bones around, so I'm okay to do this. We're not changing proportions or anything, but I am gonna kind of flatten these ears, because the way the ears are now, it's like they are unrestrained. But you know, when you're putting on something tight, you know, it could flatten those ears back a little bit. So another thing we could do is we could use our Z project. If we wanted this to really stick to that ear geometry, you could go in here to BZP, that's your Z project brush, and then we could just, well, we got to turn off X symmetry because we can only do it on one side, and that will actually go through and stick this geometry to the underlying geometry. In this case, I don't know that we need to do that, but it's an option if you want it. I'm just going to go through here, and then we'll just manually kind of sculpt up. So we've got this, we've got some wrinkles going. So now we got to ask ourselves, do I want to create cloth thickness for this particular piece? This one I don't, because if I'm going to be simulating this, I'm going to leave it, I'm going to render it double-sided, I think. But this one here, we can go ahead. There's a couple different ways we could give this thing thickness. Since it's kind of embedded, what I would tend to do with this type of geometry myself is go through here with my Z modeler brush, hover over an edge, and say close convex hole. And we'll just cap this off, and we'll just go ahead and cap this off. And then we'll do some edge loops. Alternatively, you could also just go in here and we could, again, Z modeler brush, B, Z, M, hover over a face, hold down spacebar, extrude polygroup all, or maybe all polygons, and we can just extrude this inwards. You're going to see it's going to flip our verts. It looks a little bit weird. Just go down here to display properties, flip, and there you go. And now you got cloth thickness. Now, if you're going to be sculpting with thin cloth like this, so if you say, you know, Control D a couple times, and then you want to start sculpting, just be aware that it is going to sculpt through the object here. You can go in here to brush auto masking and turn on back face mask, and that will allow it won't see the back faces. So just be aware that that'll start happening. Sometimes it is useful though. Let's crank that Z intensity up again. Sometimes it is useful to sculpt through the object, but just be aware that you're doing it on purpose. Now, I'm going to take my undo slider and we'll just undo slide back. Like I said though, if you don't want to have to deal with thick cloth, but you do want to go ahead and cap it, that's where going in here and saying close convex hole and just putting in some caps along here, and then Control Shift Tap, Control W, make those all one polygroup, and then I'm going to do a little bit extra. I'm going to say inset polygroup all legacy when I hover over a face, and we're just going to pull in a couple edge rings, and it's doing it on both groups there. That'll just hold those edges a little bit better. And in fact, if we even want to say hover over the purple one and we'll say extrude polygroup all, and then we'll just, instead of extruding back, we're going to hold down Shift and we'll kind of push that back. So that'll kind of put in an edge ring here. So now when we go through here, and if we just hit Control D, you'll see it's going to really average those edges. So instead of that, let's do this. Let's go into our geometry menu, and I'm going to crease those polygroup edges just to kind of hold them a little bit better. So geometry crease, crease PG, that's going to put a little dotted, let's make this so you can see it a little bit better. Put a little dotted edge around here. So now when we hit Control D, again, it's going to keep those edges nice and sharp. In fact, if you wanted to, you could go in here to dynamic, and you can either tap D on your keyboard, or you can turn on this dynamic button that just toggles D, and Shift D toggles that on and off. And then this will give you a smooth preview. So this is what it would look like if you were to subdivide, but it's not real, it's just a preview. You can also mix this with, like, crease level of 1, smooth subdiv of 2, or crease level of 2, smooth subdiv of 3, and that's going to show you what it would look like if you had crease on and you subdivided twice, and then you turned crease off and you subdivided one more time. That's what it would look like. A nice fall off there. Up to you. If you like this, you can say dynamic apply, and now you have real geometry, not preview geometry. And there you go. You're off to the races. So we'll go through here and we'll pull out a little bit here. So now we have the benefit of a thick cloth, but we don't have to worry about sculpting through a mesh and having issues there. Smooth brush. Did I change this? Hold on. Weighted smooth mode still set at 6. I'm like, it ain't smoothing nothing. Smooth mode of 1 is what I was looking for. We were explaining that later. This edge here, we can actually clean this up. This is a feature, these polygroup borders. So you can actually use deformation polish by feature, which we've touched on. You can just go through here and it'll go through and smooth out along that border. In fact, we could even go down to subdivision level 1, and then that'll give us an even, there we go. So now we can really, we'll hit D again, and then we'll say dynamic apply. There you go, and then we'll hold down Alt with our move brush, and we'll kind of pull along that surface normal there. Also, you can Alt tap to select a new poly or a subtool, so you can use that to your advantage. And then again, if I'm sculpting cloth, I'm gonna, like, we'll go down to subdivision level 2, and we'll kind of make it look like, this is kind of tucked in here, like so, and then, around the face and stuff. Around the back of the neck or whatever. Now, you can use cloth simulation on this. I personally would go in here to dynamics, turn off that collision volume. That's not going to help you in this case. You're already shrink wrapped. However, where cloth will help you is we'll go up to like subdivision level 3. And again, we're kind of going through here. And along the front, obviously, cloth is rarely symmetrical. So we'll kind of go through here with our standard brush, and we'll just kind of, let's turn our Z intensity down now that I have it on the right setting. So we're kind of going through here, and we're doing our, there's a little bit of compression happening in here maybe as it kind of weaves its way around like so. But you can also go through here, like if we want to do a cloth, oops, not C. C is to sample a color. B for brush, C to narrow down to your cloth brushes, or brushes that start with C, I should say. And then there's a couple in here, like cloth slide is sometimes useful. You can go through here and you can slide cloth around. However, you're going to see it's a little rough, right? And also the wrinkles might be a little small. So if you want less or bigger wrinkles, you can go down here and say subdivision level 2. And now when you're moving around the cloth, you're getting bigger deformation. You can also go in here to firmness and crank that up. And that'll also help you with your cloth. Now, as far as it, using this, what can sometimes be helpful is go in here to, let's close some of these down here. Thick skin, so subtool thick skin, turn this on, and this will kind of put a cap on how much influence a brush can have. Any brush, but cloth brushes too. So if we crank this up, just so it's like, okay, here's our base mesh. I only want it to kind of have a little bit of influence. What that means is it's going to kind of push along the surface. So now when we're using this brush and nudging, we can kind of go through here. And in fact, I would even say, instead of using cloth nudge, you can just go in here to your move brush, go down here for any brush, go into brush settings. We can go ahead and get rid of dynamics. We'll get rid of Z plugin. Underneath brush, there is a elasticity and simulation iteration. So we crank this up. Now when we use our move brush, it will do that cloth algorithm. And then if you don't want thick skin, you can go in here and just get rid of that. So now when we use move, it's going to try and simulate with cloth. Another one I like to do is pinch brush. Let's go back to move brush, turn that back down to 0. Pinch brush, simulation's up. And now when I go through here and I pinch my geometry, it'll simulate. Now, since we're working at such a low resolution, taking this firmness back down to 2 or 1 even is probably better. But now we can go through here and, get some nice, enhance your own cloth wrinkles with some cloth simulation like so. It'll kind of maybe give you some ideas, or at least, like I said, enhance what you're doing. Let's get that, I was gonna say let's get that hat in there, but let's see here. There's a couple more things we gotta do. First, let's get those shoulders up. That's a strong silhouette break. We want to make sure we build in there. And then this is good. This is good. We'll do some IMM brush stuff here. And just for the heck, like the gloves, we already know how to do. You just mask, zero mesh, pull out the fingers so that they're kind of, you know, got the nails built in, a little bit scary. And, you know, that should be easy enough to do. The hat is a little bit interesting. You can see, you know, it's a big old tortilla shape with spikes pulled out of it. So we'll start simple. I'm going to, I think there's a circle we can actually, let's say, go in here to append. And I think there's a circle 3D. We'll just start with that. It's tiny way down here in the center. So if you want to see that closer, just hit F. Oh, you got to select it. Go and select the circle and then F to frame. And hey, there it is. So we're number one, we're going to make this bigger. So we're just going to scale this up here like so. And I'm going to hold down shift and we're going to rotate this so that it's, you know, when I put it on her head, that's the hat part, right? Now, I'm not going to fit it to her head just yet. In fact, I'm going to go into solo mode here so I don't get distracted. Well, let's make it the right size. I mean, if we want, we could also do this. Transform. Let me see if I got a good hat photo. Not really. Let's try this. Texture. We'll use Spotlight. Import. And we're going to go to our folder, reference folder here, and run. This one's not too bad. But I want reference, I want scale reference too. You know what, I'm just gonna, I'll use this one again. So instead of having this one that's just kind of sitting there for everyone to look at, I'm gonna go in here to texture, select that one, add it to my spotlight, and we're gonna scale this up a little bit. And we're gonna take this and turn that opacity down. Oh, I forgot we had all this stuff in there, that's fine. So now I can kind of line her up here, and with the circle selected, you see it kind of disappears when I look at the bottom of it. Go down here to visibility, display properties, sorry, and then hit double, and now we can see both sides. And I lost my chat. There we go. Scene scale, yes. Yeah, ZBrush is a funner program, I think. Stager in reverse and sculpting small scale. Set home as a small scale, then hit unify. Let me see. Hit unify. Set that as target stage so I can switch stage if I need. That makes sense, yeah, because basically what you're doing, yeah, that's not. I mean, that's a pretty hot take. I'll take it. Yeah. So anybody following along in that conversation, if we go here, let's go back. So if you want, I mean, I don't know that this is the best stager video in the world, but if you go in here and you search for stager, this is stager geometry. Yeah, so you can just go to my YouTube channel and search for stager and it'll pop up. Oh, we've been searching a lot today. Playlist, geez. You can check out the stager functionality. You know what, that's what we're gonna do. Mode, always on bottom. But you can use that to kind of, you can work in one stage where you're kind of working, and then you can hit the stager button. I don't use it a ton, so it's somewhere over here in your sub tools, I think. Stager. Oh man, I really don't. There it is. Geometry stager. You can set a home stage and a target stage and set hotkeys of that and kind of flip it back and forth between states. Yeah, that seems like it would work. I mean, I'll take your word for it. So yeah, I mean, that sounds like a good workflow. I'll have to try that out. Oh, so for everyone here who may not have the access to the chat, stager in reverse. So when sculpting in smaller scale, and this is from the Painted Dragon. Sorry, it's purple text on purple background. I had to lean in. Use stager and reverse and sculpting a small scale. I set home as a smaller scale, and then I hit unify and set that as the target stage. So deformation unify will automatically scale it to a ZBrush cube unit scale, basically. Let's see. This way I hit switch stage if I need to do anything like Dynamesh or something that starts working at the smaller scale. So instead of what we were doing, which is like kind of messing around with the Z plugin, basically under geometry stager, use that in conjunction with deformation unify. So set your home stage, hit unify, set your target stage, and then switch between these to go from tiny ZBrush functional to what you're working on. I think that sounds right. That'll work, especially if you're not. Yeah, yeah, that could work. That does work. Thank you. Confused with matte and RGB combinations. That one is like a poly paint thing. So I would say, you know, this intro to ZBrush here, full playlist. Go and check out poly painting and material painting. So I'll link you right here. Copy link address. This one will show you the difference between RGB and mRGB and everything in between. Yeah, I got some. Oh, man, I did a ton of 3D printing. I don't have a ton on my channel just yet. Eventually, maybe someday. But if you do a search for 3D print, you can see a couple different. I got some Lychee Slicer playlists and some Elegoo Mars stuff. I think, and Benny 5. I have a Saturn that's pretty sweet, but anyway. Okay, so again, we're matching this up, and then we want to kind of match our hat size. So again, we'll kind of, and again, it's going to kind of be, we're actually pretty close, I think. I think this is fine. Maybe a little big. There we go. So now, here's the deal. It's kind of floppy, and it has a little nubbin on the top. So we're going to create that, I think. And this geometry is not going to be great for that, but here's what we can do. I'm going to go through here with my Z modeler brush. We're going to say slide edge loop complete, and we're going to just get our nubbin kind of dialed in. I'm going to hold down Alt, and we're going to paint along here. And in fact, we'll turn on X symmetry, and then we'll say, we'll do an inset. Polygroup all. We'll inset this real quick, and then I'm going to say, you know, Q mesh or extrude, polygroup all. Just hold down Shift on here and just kind of pull this up. And then we'll go through here. We'll say like insert single edge loop here. And then actually, let's do this. Let's do a bevel here. Do a nice soft bevel. And then we'll go in here. We'll say insert single multiple edge loops, interactive elevation. And now when I pull out, it'll kind of round that off. So that'll kind of be our little nubbin. And then we'll go ahead and we'll consolidate these here. So now when I ZRemesh this, I can ZRemesh this nubbin and it'll maintain that geometry border. I do want to smooth this out because ZRemesher will build in this faceting. So again, like we've done before, underneath, and I'm going faster now because y'all know where it is, but geometry, crease PG, right? So we're going to crease our polygroup border. And so now when we hit Control D, that'll keep that nice and sharp. And in fact, we'll even go in here with our move brush here, and we'll kind of move that out like so. Yeah, something like that. So now we'll hit Control D one more time. It's nice and smooth. And now let's get some new geometry. So ZRemesh half, depth size down to 0, keep groups, smooth groups down to 0. Again, all stuff we've already talked about. And now we've got nice, consistent geometry. So now back to the thickness thing, right? I'll go ahead and turn off double. So we've got the single-sided mesh. If we were to start subdividing now and then going in here and holding down Alt and kind of pulling along our surface normal here. Oh man, we might have to use your stager trick because I can't quite pull out as far as I want. We could also use an IMM brush or let me brush that BC chisel brush here, and we're going to change this from freehand to drag dot. And now if we use this brush, let's turn off lazy mouse by tapping L. Let's switch this to a sharper one here. Hold down Alt. There we go. So we could go through here. Let me turn this off. And just start, pulling up spikes. Any number of ways we could do that. However, while we're doing that, it's on a single-sided mesh, right? We could show that as double-sided by going in here. Oops. One quick. Okay, so if we go in here to geometry, dynamic, we were in here to, like, if we turn on dynamic, it'll give us a smooth preview. However, we turn the smooth preview off, we can also go in here and add thickness. So while we're doing this, it's putting in some fake thickness, and the geometry's following it, and it's fake. So you can turn that on and off. So you can go through here and do whatever you need to do, and then add thickness after the fact. You can say dynamic, add thickness, apply. You could also, before you start, go, let's say subdivision level 1, delete higher, or in fact, let's go all the way back. Double off. We could go through here like we were doing, extrude polygroup all. We can just extrude, not polygroup, we want to extrude all polygons, and we can just add thickness like that. So now we have thickness, but just remember, as you're subdividing and sculpting through, you need the brush to pull through. So a couple different ways, and I was just hoping while I was talking I'd be able to come up with what I wanted to do. I think in this case, let's go ahead and let's go in here to Z plugin, not Z plugin, transform, and we're going to activate symmetry in the Y direction, so floor up and straight up and down, turn on radial, and let's do a quick, I'm going to do a quick count. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I'm just going to eyeball it. So we'll hit Control D a couple times. I do want to do a crease PG, so it keeps that creased. And we're just going to kind of eyeball it. So this isn't enough, so we're going to grab our transform, and we're going to say radial count of, because they're pretty close together, almost touching. So if we do move brush here, let's do the stager trick from the Painted Dragon. So we're going to go down here, and we're going to say stager. We're going to set this as our home stage. We're going to say deformation unify. We're going to set this as our target stage, and then we can switch between unify and target. So we're going to hit F to frame. So we're way down here, and now when we hold down Alt, this is what I was looking for. So if I go into my move brush, and again hold down Alt, we'll kind of pull out spikes. Here, there's not a ton of geometry, and it gets less as we go out. This is tougher than I thought, but it is going to give us our thickness underneath that I want. And it will even out eventually. Let's go switch stage. Let's hit F to frame. Let's hit Control D a couple times. I'm trying to make sure it doesn't break. Okay, so if I use my move brush and hold down Alt, it will pull along the surface normal, and it'll kind of do a round, like that. The move brush is kind of a rounded look. If we do go in here to our brush settings, and we say curve, turn on AccuCurve, that will pull it out to a point, and I think that's really what we're looking for here. So again, I'm going to hold down Alt and kind of pull out. You could also mask and pull through it, but I think this is about right. And again, we can turn on dynamic with our thickness cranked up just to kind of make, oh, not that much. This is all scale dependent too, so it's going to change when we go back to the other one. And that's going to give us that underneath kind of pointy look. So, okay, these are almost touching. And then if we go in and hold down Alt, again, we need to scale this up a little bit. And by scale up, I mean go back here and drop down our transform radial count. So we're at 25 now. Let's go down to, like, I don't know, maybe 18. Because we want to keep these at about the same size as we keep pulling in. And yeah, okay. I think we're getting somewhere. And then we're going to go maybe down to like 10, not 100, 10. And this is more of a art than a science, although I'm sure there's a science way you could do this. Here. And then, you know what? This is fine. They're a little larger. They're not quite as many in here as there are. I guess we can do it right. So we started with 25. Let's say like 32, I think is probably, again, count, you know, be accurate if you would like. And then we'll drop this down a little bit in here. And we'll drop this down a little bit in here. And we'll drop this down a little bit in here. And we're getting towards that hat. Yeah, okay. I think this will be fine. And then on the hat, there's not that many. So we'll drop this down to like, I don't know, 7. Here, and then we'll just continue dropping this down until we can actually just turn off all symmetry and maybe just put one right down the middle. There we go. There's our spiky hat. Now, we do want some thickness, right? And it is on a subdivision level 5, so I'm going to show you a little trick. If we turn on dynamic here and we turn off smooth and we turn up our thickness here. Actually, before we do that, let's double check because I don't want to have to scale this again. I just, for some reason, Stager scares me because I don't use it a ton. So back here on Stager, we're going to say switch stage, hit F. Yeah, we're in good shape. So we went ahead and switched. And in fact, I think if we turn those off, we can go ahead and turn Stager off. So, hey, Stager worked. Congrats. Thank you, Painted Dragon. You're the hero of the day. So we've got this here. I'm going to say dynamic thickness up. And crank that up here. And now you could go through here and with your offset, you could be like, I want to inflate out or I only want to inflate in. I think I just want to go in and leave those nice and spiky. This is the thickness I'm looking for. It's pretty thin looking. However, when I do this, it's going to give me just one. Oh, it does have subdivision segments 1. So we're going to have to change that, I think, in order to get our subdivisions back. So we're going to say, we could do this. We could say dynamic apply, or if this makes you uncomfortable, just say delete lower and then go back in here with your brush and we could say extrude all polygons. Let's do a quick save because this might get a little crashy because this isn't an insignificant amount of polygons. And then you could just literally extrude in. You could also do an extraction or a morph diff and we'll do a visibility flip. There you go. So now we've given ourselves some thickness. However, now we can't reconstruct back to get our subdivisions back. However, we can, I believe, if we do go in here and we say, okay, let's make sure we see it. If I hover over this edge and we say insert single edge loop, if I put one right down the middle and hit reconstruct, it'll reconstruct back 1, right? So in this case, I know that if I go in here and I put one on either side now, I can reconstruct back twice. Okay. So if I go in here and I put one on either side of those and I reconstruct, I can now reconstruct back 3 times. I don't know that we need to reconstruct and have a game res or anything, but just in case you needed to like rebuild a cape or something, that could be an option for you. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to turn on double. I think we're okay as long as we're just rendering. Also, one thing I should have mentioned, having subdivisions is nice in this case because if we're going to be moving this thing around and this is a lot of geometry, the ability to go down to like subdivision level 1 is probably helpful. And at any point, if you want to say, you know what, delete lower, just Control Shift grab the top polygroups and remake your thickness and reconstruct subdivisions, you are well within your means to do that now. So now this thing kind of going onto her head, and now that we don't need radial symmetry anymore, we'll kind of scale this down a little bit. We'll kind of put this on her head and we'll fit this a little bit better. Let's turn on X symmetry here. Oh, symmetry, transform, activate symmetry, and the X with radial off. There we go. I probably should have done this before doing all that work, but that's fine. And then let's talk about, this is going to be kind of at a jaunty angle here. Turn off X symmetry here. And you could use like a bend deformer maybe. So if we go in here and we'll say, maybe do like a bend, oops, I forgot. These things don't work subdivision. So, but now that we have the edge loops where you want them, we could say delete lower and then go through here, and you could say like do a bend curve and put in a couple resolution points. And then we can go through here and we can do like a twist. So on this one, you could say go in here and oops, like maybe do a little bit of a twist down, and then on the back, grab that back one here and do kind of a twist up a little bit here, and then say, okay, that's good. And then we can say reconstruct back here, and then now we can drop down to sort of level 1, and then just do a little fine tuning. You know, let's go into the big old move brush and knock yourself out. So now we've got our cool little hat, and might be running out of time to take my dog. Okay, I'll leave. I gotta get out of here at 7:20, but we'll keep going. So we got a little bit of time. We got 10 minutes left. So now let's talk about this IMM brush. Now you already know about cloth sculpting, and you know already about Z-Remesher, and you know how to go through here and you can split these things. In fact, we could even try this geometry crease. Underneath here, there is a bevel width. So if you go through here and just change this, it's not going to do anything. However, you hold down Control and do a bevel width, you can actually put a bevel in between your polygroups. This one's tiny because we're not using Stager, but we could, if I remember. I need to start setting hotkeys for this. I'm going to be using it more. I hate digging for things. So, Stager, set my home stage. Deformation, unify, set my target stage, F to frame. So now we're working at this scale. Again, thank you, the Painted Dragon. And if we now go in here to our crease menu and we hold down Control, now you can see we're putting a bevel right in between all of our polygroups. I feel like there's something I'm forgetting. We could also go through here and just bevel like an edge loop and kind of just go through here and do that. I think that's fine probably. You can also just tap. Once you've done a bevel, you can tap and it'll maintain that exact same bevel length. That's what I was worried about. So this one will bevel fine. This one will bevel fine. This one doesn't, but I think if we get ready, we'll use our select lasso trick to go through here and just get rid of that geometry modified topology, delete hidden, and then there's something tickling my brain about polygroups and bevels along polygroups here. Delete hidden, and then you know what, for this one, let's just isolate this. Let's hold down, let's see if we can, it's not gonna let us. You know what, since these are all split, let's just hit Control Shift. If we Control Shift tap between these two and drag, we'll make this all one polygroup. Okay. We could also do this. It's kind of a silly thing, but if we hover over an edge and we do, edge, and I want to add to curve, you can literally force it. It's like, hey, stop trying to find your own curve. This is the curve that I want, and then you can hover over this edge, and you could say, bevel all curves, and then go through and bevel. Of course, it's not doing it symmetrically for some reason. Well, it is symmetrical. Anyway, you could use that. You know what? Fine. Control. Think. Why is this difficult? You could also hover over an edge, and we could do a, let's do this. I have a brush set up for Z-Modeler Slice, so I can literally just go through here and say, I want to go from here, brush, Z-Modeler Slice. I want to go from here to here to here, across and over. And now I'm going to hold down Alt and Shift to inherit these poly groups here. Just kind of paint them, and then Control-Shift-Tab. Let's say delete. All right, so anyway, I could go through here and just, you know, get rid of this stuff. And, oh, we weren't mirrored, that's why. So let's do a mirror, mirror and weld. There we go. And now we can say delete edge here, and then collapse edge here. We're doing a little bit of nasty modeling, but, and then Control-Shift here. There we go. So we just manually brute forced a cut. So I'll go through here and we'll switch our stages. We'll say F to frame. And now we've got this all nicely split up. And then we want to put nails along that path here. So we're going to go out of edit mode, hit Control N and clear our canvas. We'll do a quick save here. Actually, you know what? Since I'm probably going to have to leave pretty soon, just so you know how to find a slower way for y'all to do this, I'm going to say IMM curve. There's IMM curve stuff that you can do. You can also do like nano mesh. There's so many different ways you could do this. But in order to make a nail, let's go in here to our cylinder, go into edit mode. We're going to go down here to initialize, and we're going to say maybe 8 here. Oh, sorry, this divide is 8, and this divide is 3. And then we'll say make polymesh 3D, and I'm going to scale this, hold down Alt and scale along that x-axis there. And now we could say, let's move this down. And then we'll say, I'm going to unmask that bottom part here, and then we'll move this down a little bit. And then along the top here, of course, we want to do our, and there's a couple different ways to do this. We could say, you know, group by normals, and then use our Z modeler brush, extrude, polygroup all here, and just kind of get a nail head going. And then I do want to have a little bit more edge rings in here because I think they're going to be useful. So we'll just do an insert multiple edge loops, keep polygroup, and we'll just kind of put some edges to hold that in here. And in fact, we'll even put a little polygroup here just to hold those edges if I need them. So now that we have this, we can literally go through here. We say B, create insert mesh, new. So now we could use this as an insert mesh brush, and also we'll capture it. I think from the side will be fine. So you could literally go through here now, a couple different ways. You could say, as you're going through here and you're dragging this out, your make your turn dynamic. We need dynamic on. Preferences. Max brush size up to 5,000. So here, if we start dragging out and we hold down Control, it'll snap to that brush size. You can go through here and just hold down Control and snap, and it'll make it all the same brush size. Alternatively, you could also go through here and use this as a path. So if we, you know, I should have kept that. Those in between ones would have been really nice because we could actually put geometry right along there. But for example, if you wanted to, I'm trying to find a good example here. We can, now these are all open, so we can't frame it. Think. You could use nano mesh along here. There's so many different ways you could do this. Let me give you some resources. So IMM curve, you could go in and you could, you know, do an insert mesh brush your nails along a curve like this controlling ZBrush curves here. You could also frame your open borders. You could also do a nano mesh IMM, where essentially this nano mesh IMM alternative, basically you can put a plane where you want them all to go and then insert a nano mesh and put your spikes where you want. I'll follow up with this. You know what? I'll keep recording on my channel when I get back at some point, and we'll finish this out. But anyway, we've got this started. All we got to do now is put these nails on. We've already made the nail. You could do an IMM brush and you know, just kind of place them along here manually and then just sculpt it out. But oh, I gotta go. Take my dog to the vet. But cool. Excellent. Thanks everybody. And cool. I'll see you all